Why is it that I'm totally opposed to squatting and deadlifts in the gym? Give me a couple minutes and I'll explain. Hi, I'm Coach Robb Beams. At the time of this recording, I'm going on 40 years of being a human performance specialist. Nothing is more frustrating in my office than to receive an email from somebody who got hurt in the gym trying to get stronger. If I were to give you an actual quantified list of how many emails we've received from people who have gotten hurt specifically doing squats and deadlifts in the gym, the numbers would be staggering to you. Now, the frustrating part for me is, thanks to social media, there's a lot of people out there that will take things out of context. Like, for example, I've been told, Rob, don't you understand that a deadlift activates every muscle on the posterior, the backside of the human body? Yes, I am very aware of that. Rob, don't you understand that squatting is one of the best ways to generate the greatest amount of raw power out of your quads? Yes, I'm very aware of that, okay? I want you to file that in the category of textbook knowledge. Now let's move over into the real world, and I want to introduce you into my office receiving emails and phone calls. I have my own podcast show, and this is probably one of the #1 controversial subjects that I run up against every year, especially when we're in an early part of a sports season. When we're in a stage of preseason training, the goal of that season is to get very, very strong and build a big aerobic engine. So inevitably, people will come up to me and say, Rob, I ran into one of your clients at the gym, and they mentioned to me that you don't like them to do deadlifts, you don't like them to do squats. And you're exactly right. When we look at the anatomical chart, I want you to notice how the head sits directly over the spine. And unfortunately, when you start to do a squat, the first thing that most people will do is they stick their head forward. And now what ends up happening is you got to look at this from a bunch of different leverage standpoints. If your head sticks out forward and then you put weight on the top of your shoulders, the risk of you bulging a disc, the risk of you slipping a disc out the back is just mathematically and from a leverage standpoint, it's almost inevitable. You've got this weight on your shoulders. You're now trying to squat down, and you wonder why the vertebrae start to get out of alignment. Now, there's a lot of different compartments that we can jump into, and for the sake of time in this video, I just want to give you the 10,000 foot view why it's important that you don't do squats and deadlifts. And that is because you do not have the appropriate range of motion. Being in the business for 40 years, I've never had one individual who showed up at any of our wellness clinics who had the necessary range of motion to do a squat or a deadlift without the risk of getting hurt. Now, if you're somebody that is just absolutely in love with deadlifts and squats, I think that's fine. I just hope that you're getting a massage on a regular basis. I hope you're visiting with a chiropractor on a regular basis. And those two professionals are going to be able to keep your spine in alignment and keep the muscles as pliable and optimize your range of motion to the greatest of your extent. Unfortunately, in the real world, impact injuries, surgeries, anything that has put the spine into jeopardy, any of the muscles surrounding the spine is going to negatively impact your range of motion. So that's fine, Rob. I understand now you're not a big fan of squats and deadlifts. What would be an alternative? Well, that's a great question. Let's stop and think about what the goal of these activities are. Let's start with the deadlift, right? When we recognize that the deadlift, from a textbook standpoint, engages all the muscles on the backside of the body, why don't you just take apart the muscles on the posterior chain and work them individually? So if I'm looking to get my shoulders and my back, I could do lat pullback, I could do bent over row. When we look at something like your low back and glutes, well, you could do things like stepping up onto a box. You could have weights hanging directly below you. You have your head directly over your spine. You're not leaning forward, and you literally just step up on a box. It's going to engage your glutes, your lower back. It's going to engage all 4 quad muscles. It's going to engage your gastrocs and your calves getting up onto that box. But the beautiful part is you keep your head directly over your spine. If we look at an alternative to doing the squat in the gym, take a fit ball Put it in between your shoulder blades, lean up against the wall, and put some dumbbells in your hands and literally slide down until your legs are at 90 degrees. I actually said that backwards. Put the ball in the small of your back, and then as you squat down, the ball is going to go up in between your shoulder blades. You'll get to 90 degrees at the quads, and then you go straight back up. But notice, you have engaged the exact same muscle groups, but you've done it without putting any risk of slipping a disc, herniating a disc, or causing any kind of damage. The head is directly over the spine, and we're putting full load on the quadriceps, the glutes, the gastrocs. On the way back up, you're going to be engaging hamstrings, and you've eliminated the risk of injury. When we come back and we look at the original frustration that I have is, unfortunately, people will come to us after they've been told to do something that they're physically not capable of, doing way too much weight, and then they get injured, and now we have to work on rehabbing their back where we should have been prehabbing their back. Stop and think about that comment. Whenever we're working with our clients, our goal is to make sure that you are getting as strong as you possibly can without the risk of injury. I want you to refer to that as prehab, because once you become injured, now you're doing rehab. So an ounce of prevention can go a long way. I can't emphasize enough, I hope that this is making sense, because the last thing that I want for you is, in an attempt to get stronger, you end up becoming injured, because as we say, the only two things that will slow you down in regards to progression is getting sick and or getting injured. I hope this video clarifies why I'm so against deadlifts and squats. If you are in a position where you're able to work with a trainer that can make sure that you stay in that right anatomical position to reduce the risk of hurting your spine, then by all means do it. But make sure you're honest with yourself and make sure that the range of motion is possible without any weight before you put any weight on. Now, this may have created a question or may have created a frustration, and if I have, please feel free to drop me an email. contact@coachrobb.com. This video is a byproduct of questions that you guys are sending in. The number of questions continue to escalate every week, and I want to thank you for that. If you haven't liked and subscribed, I would encourage you to do so, and also remember to turn on the notifications, because we do put out a video every day here on YouTube, and I sure hope to see you again tomorrow.